Well, the name Captain Crunch actually came from the cereal, Captain Crunch cereal. And when the kiddie phone freaks were doing their phone freak activities, they discovered that if you held one of the holes on the whistle, or glued one of the holes on the whistle, and blew the whistle, it'd be very close to 2600 hertz tone. Now, how I became the name was that there was one time there was a big conference call. I came in there. I was pretty much really wet behind the ears about all this stuff. I didn't know anything at all about anything. So I naively just called myself John from San Jose. At that point, they said, "You better use a better handle than that." I said, "Okay, tell me what I should do." He says, "Oh, just pick a name." "Oh, okay, has Captain Crunch been picked?" He said, "No." "Okay, you are forever known as Captain Crunch." So I became one of the very first group of maybe 15 or 20 really high-class blue boxing phone freaks that knew all the internal codes just about anywhere we wanted to go, including the military Audubon, federal telephone system, and the internal networks mostly used by all the intelligence agencies. Because there were just ways of getting into these things.
Sounds like you're a bit of a dangerous man.
Yeah, I think they wanted to lock me up and throw away the key. It was basically their whole philosophy. And they shot themselves in the foot when they did that, because guess what happened? When I was in jail, I had phone freak classes. I taught everybody how to do it. Okay, so I was minding my own business. It was just about maybe 2 months after I got out of the Air Force in '68. I was experimenting around with a new antenna design for an FM transmitter. So I was connecting up to the antenna, and I was going to just drive around and see how well I could receive the station. So as I was doing that, I get back home, and I was about ready to switch it off, and I decided, well, let's see how many people are listening. And so I said, "Hey, if anybody's out there listening to this station, give me a call. Here's my number." And I gave out the number. Sure enough, I get a call. The guy that called me was one of the blind phone freak kids, but I didn't know it at the time. He gave me a number that I could call him back at any time I wanted to call and get another signal report. So when I called that number, I got a tone. He eventually called me back 2 weeks later, and he told me that this number that he gave me was a loop around. And I said, "What's a loop around?" "That is a number where if you call the A side, you get a tone. Call the B side, the tone goes away on the A side, and the A and B people can talk to each other." He told me he was a phone freak. And I said, "What's that?" He told me he plays with the phone and knows a lot about phones. And I says, "Can you make free calls?" And he comes back and says, "Yeah, I've got 20 different ways of making free calls." I said, "Is there any chance I could meet and talk with you in person?" He says, "Sure, I guess so." And he gave me his address. Very naive person, man. It's crazy. Nobody would ever do that. So sure enough, I go over there. Knock on the door, his dad answers. "Yeah, Denny's in this room, follow me." His dad escorts me to his room. I open up the door, it's totally dark inside. So what happened was, they're all blind, they don't need lights. So I said, "Mind if I turn on the lights?" "Yeah, sure." And I saw like 4 people in there. One of them had an organ, like an old little, organ, used like in a band or something. Another one had a few like audio amplifier stuff, and they hooked it into the phone line, and they used the organ to make a call. It was like it was a blue box. How could that be that simple? That all I had to do is to put a 2600 tone down the line, wait for a little chirp sound, and then go ahead and send these multi-frequency tones into the line to make a call. So I went on a quest to find out how easy it was. There was no place at all in the whole wide world where that wouldn't work. It worked everywhere. They knew that there was a way to get the frequencies, so they went into the Stanford Library and they got the Bell System Technical Journal. And in there were the frequencies. So Steve designed his board all digitally, which, in my opinion, is a very bad idea. Because when you send square waves down a phone line, and the equipment is designed for listening to sine waves, then the equipment itself can cause fault conditions and attract a lot of attention. And anybody that used Steve Wozniak's box would automatically be suspect and very quickly apprehended. So I told that to Steve hundreds of times when I first met him. You don't want to do that. So Steve is somewhat of a prankster, and he loves to play pranks on people. I'm referring to Steve Wozniak. He would, for instance, more recently, he would take one of those 160 megahertz walkie-talkies that are running on the commercial bands. Often is used by the fast food places, where the fast food window communicates with the person out in the car through that little box, Ronald McDonald kind of thing. So that's all done with the radio link. So what Steve would do is he'd park over by next to the McDonald's, and when somebody pull up, Steve would come on the radio and say, "May I take your order, please?" So he sees that it's this big fat lady or something ordering a bunch of junk food. And then he'll come back and he'll say, "You know, lady, you're too fat. Why don't you, I'm going to order you a veggie burger instead." I was working at Apple, and I was writing the software to control the phone board. Now, my original design of the phone board had 11 chips in it, but Wozniak cut it down to 7. But I have a copy, and I have a working version of the original phone board that I built that had 11 chips in it, my original design. I'm thinking of actually releasing it publicly and giving the schematic diagram away to those Apple II collectors who want to play around with it. So what he did was he programmed the phone board to call Steve Jobs' phone at home at night, over and over again. The minute the phone's hung up, this device would detect it, hang up the phone, may get another dial tone, and dial Steve Jobs' phone number again. And just keep doing that over and over again. Of course, when I came in the next day, boy, did I catch hell for that. Because Jobs thought I did it. And I had a lot of explaining to do. I was in the work furlough program after being incarcerated for some time. I would be allowed to go to work during the day, and at night go back into the jail. So that's when I wrote a program that I needed really badly, a word processor program, and I wrote a program and I called it Easy Writer. Easy Writer was a very simple program, but it was very blazingly fast. It worked on an Apple II, and then it worked on the Apple II with 3 of the 80-column cards, the M&R Enterprises card, the Videx card, and the Double Vision card. And these were 80-column cards that would plug into 40-column Mac and make a Mac be 80 columns. And they were very, very popular. So, and that became Easy Writer Pro. And Easy Writer Pro was number 2 on the Soft Talk hit parade, with VisiCalc just being number 1. So it was VisiCalc, Easy Writer, and all the other shit below it. I just went out and got a 8086 machine, got fourth on it in a week from the FIG people, fourth interest group people, and got it running. About that time the IBM PCs came. Once we got the IBM PCs, we got fourth running on that PC within 20 minutes. Because it just so happened that we picked Tom Patterson's Seattle computer product DOS. And so did I, and it just so happens that Bill Gates bought that DOS and put it into the IBM PC. Bill Gates, of course, was in the running to do the word processor for the PC, but we beat him to it.